I originally became a volunteer because I was watching the coverage of Hurricane Katrina every day and just being upset about it and felt like I needed to do something. So after 6 days, I called the local chapter and volunteered, and they trained a whole lot of us very quickly and sent us to Baton Rouge.
My initial work with the Red Cross was with the local disaster team. We respond to fires. They always seem to be at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we go out and we make sure that clients who have been burned out of a house have some clothing, motel or housing for a couple of nights, and money so that they can buy food and clothing for themselves and their kids, so their kids can go back to school if that's necessary.
I love to help people, and it's a niche that I found that it puts all my passions together. It's a world that I never knew existed, and a world that I never knew I always wanted to be a part of.
Well, again, I'd been watching coverage on television of this big storm that was coming. I sent an email to the emergency services director saying I was available to drive if she needed me. About an hour later, she said, "I have a gentleman from Cincinnati who can drive if you can be his partner." I said, "Okay," and she said, "We want you guys to leave by 6. And that gave me about 4 hours to get ready and get down to the chapter office.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe 13 states were affected. Millions of people, millions of power outages, and I believe, I know that the total damage in New York was about $41 billion, and in New Jersey, I think $36 billion.
The whole operation, I think nobody understands, except the Red Cross maybe, what a difficult situation responding to an emergency can be. You have thousands of people called and being organized and working together on a moment's notice. It's almost impossible for things to work smoothly because of everybody just getting there and just doing their job. And amazingly, out of all that chaos, it happens.
Even though the storm had hit the coast, inland was affected power-wise. So there were no lights, no street lights, no traffic lights.
It wasn't until we took the trip to Staten Island that we realized how huge of a disaster it was. And that was sort of a fluke. They just came out and said, we have these 2 places we need people to go. Which one do you want to do? And I just said, okay, Staten Island, that's fine. We got out there, it was pretty chaotic. There was a big parking lot place where there was a lot of other agencies giving out assistance. It was hard to find a person to tell us where we needed to go.
My story from Staten Island is a little different than Lynn's, in that we were just briefly there serving meals to people who were in pretty bad shape.
So we found a local volunteer from the local chapter, and he said, "Go up to Sand Road, that's where it came through." I said, "Just park anywhere on Sand Road?" And he said, "Yeah." So we did, and Cliff was driving. He found a good place to pull up. We were lucky that we had extra volunteers with us that day, because we had 3 people from the North Carolina Baptists, 2 of the men who worked in the kitchen, and a young woman that I think was like an exchange student, I'm not really sure. So we had 2 extra people in the back of the truck to help Cliff. I was out front, and there was a neighborhood lady named Karen who wandered along and started helping us from outside the truck. When we drove in, it looked like a disaster. All of their possessions from their homes were sitting by the curb, waiting for the pickup.
I truly believe that my life changed more in those 2 weeks than in the last 2 years.
It's almost impossible for things to work smoothly because of everybody just getting there and just doing their job. And amazingly, out of all that chaos, it happens.